All right, ready for clap?
All right. I'm ready to clap.
Okie dokie. Here goes nothing. 3, 2, 1. That was a solid ass clap.
That was a loud one.
That was good.
Really? Yeah. All right. Now I'm just thinking of the term ass clap.
Ass clap.
Now make it clap. Clap, 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 clap.
Okay. All right. On this episode of ReLiterated, a cold, unfeeling, humorless leader bans an entire people group of beings who live a little too different for his conservative sensibilities. In a move so cruel and bigoted it would make Ron DeSantis blush with envy, he recruits a wizard to magically banish the offending race out of sight and out of mind, and spreads disinformation about them to justify his actions. Did author Bruce Coville intend this story to be an allegory for the treatment of the marginalized LGBTQ community and the importance of being an ally? Maybe? Did we intend this episode to release alongside the beginning of Pride Month? No, that was just a coincidence. The next book to be banned in Florida is Goblins in the Castle on ReLiterated, the podcast that's a real bop. Welcome to ReLiterated, the lowbrow book club of grown-ass adults discussing the books read by children in the 1990s, but with 2020's hindsight. Fair warning, we use language too mature for kids, analysis too immature for literary scholars, and ignorance too profound to be inoffensive to everyone. We also don't hold back on spoilers, so if you haven't read today's book and don't want to be spoiled, read it before listening. You've been warned. I'm Andy.
I'm Harold.
And I'm Josh.
And we are at the cusp of a brand new chapter, boys. Chapter 9.
Yeah, we're going to be covering authors that we've already covered, but something that's not in the series that we've already covered. So
Yeah, because we like some authors so much, and they did a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I remember one of the books in the series that we're doing for sure, but there's a couple where we're actually reading series that, like Fear Street, that I did not indulge in.
yeah, it was like a little bit before our time because that was for teenagers, I believe. And since we were in the Goosebumps, that came after. So I think we just missed it a little bit. And when I finally got up to that age, I didn't really have that interest anymore.
So, Josh, when Fear Street... Actually, this is probably a conversation for next week when we actually do Fear Street, but when Fear Street was coming out, you felt like they were a little above your age range? You were still in the Goosebumps kind of...
I was still young because they came out in...
89,
late
90?
80s and early 90s, and I was 9, 10, and they were made for like 14, 15-year-old.
Yeah, and you got a couple of years on us, so...
Yes, yep. I did read above my grade, but I didn't have any interest in those. So
Right. I felt the same way about them. But yeah, this isn't a Fear Street. What I was just saying, though, like, it's kind of cool to read some that I never indulged in back then.
Yep, so I'm excited about the titles we're reading for this chapter, and I'm super excited about the book that we're covering in this episode, Goblins in the Castle, by a friend of the podcast, Bruce Coville.
Yes, this book, the copy I have is the one I had when I was a kid. Not the same copy, it's just the book cover and everything.
What's your cover look like? Is it with William holding a torch in front of Igor?
Yep, with goblins down at the bottom.
Yep, I got the same one. And mine, I bought off of Thrift Books, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that mine was signed by Bruce himself and Igor.
Oh, wow.
He got the name wrong, though. It says to Kyle, Bop, 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 Bruce Coville, and Igor.
Wow, Kyle, what a jerk.
Yeah.
Sort of a book.
I don't know how Thrift Books gets a hold of the books that they sell, if they just like buy them up in bulk, they go out to here and there, pick them up, but somehow Kyle's copy of Goblins in the Castle, his signed copy, got to me, so...
Hey.
That's
pretty awesome.
Maybe he died. I guess best case scenario, he died, and then...
Oh no, Kyle.
Oh no, Kyle.
He also could have aged out of the book and...
Yeah, maybe.
I think that thrift books, if they're thrifty, right? So they probably like go to different libraries and check books out, and then they just never return them under aliases.
They take off all the library's trappings and
Yep.
make it good as new and sell them. There you go.
That's not what they do.
I'm sure it's not.
What they do. Yeah.
So my copy was just electronic because, I use the library as much as I can. And then also I want to give a shout out to West Meadow Elementary School because they allowed me to do the audiobook on YouTube up until chapter 20, and then it stops. And I was like, what the hell? So I had to find another person that had the other chapters. But up until then, it was very fun and entertaining. I was enjoying it. So
I read the paper version of the book, obviously, and then I listened to the audio book that was read chapter by chapter. What was it? By distance learning.
Yeah, that's who I had to finish with. Because
I listened to the whole thing with her reading and I hated it a lot, but there's no audiobook version. There's no official audiobook version of this book.
No.
So.
Yeah, you should have done the teacher. She was super great. And she was Canadian, so she kept saying whenever she said sorry and things, it was great. I
never found that version of it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were talking about this woman from distance learning who whatever, but yeah, no, she was a little bit annoying, and what was most annoying was that her volume was just way down. I had to max out my volume every time.
Yeah.
And then most of the chapters had ads to them, so that just blasted my eardrums whenever they came up, so yeah.
That's always fun.
Bruce, if you're listening, I would absolutely love to produce your audiobook for this one. I know the audio rights are probably held by somebody or whatever, but whatever happens, just make the audiobook, man.
Yeah, for sure. This one deserves an audiobook.
For sure,
it really does. Igor is a really fun character.
Yep.
And he'd have a pretty cool voice. But anyways, yeah, we're going to get to Igor when we get into the plot.
It actually makes sense that they wouldn't have an audiobook necessarily. I mean, they do for some of the other books and stuff, but really, if you think about it, we're trying to encourage kids to read. So having an audiobook for all of his books would be defeating the purpose. But it would help us 40-year-olds that want to indulge.
And as somebody who does it for money, I would encourage audiobooks. It's a good alternative if you don't have the time to sit down and read the pages, but it's definitely a good experience to actually do it the old-fashioned way.
For sure.
Also.
With your eyeballs.
With your eyeballs.
And your retinas and your corneas and whatnots.
Or your fingers.
Who's got the time?
I'm trying to think of what... Braille.
Some people read with their fingers.
Braille. Some people read with their fingers. So Goblins in the Castle was published back in 1992. The data I found on it said it has a 4.5 reading level and 5 accelerated reader points.
Ooh.
Man, can't wait to get that pizza.
Yep, we're racking up the points, guys. Well, what's to be said about Bruce Coville? It hasn't already been said in the first episode we covered of one of his books. We've done My Teacher's an Alien and the sequel, My Teacher Fried My Brains. So
we
far.
also had we met him. We had a 45-minute interview with him.
We did have a conversation with him. Yeah.
Yep.
we meant to record it. But things happened, and it turns out we didn't have a recording. But I do still have the recording of fessing up to him that I completely screwed the pooch on making sure that we were getting it. And so, yeah.
We'll
I think
we're
done apologizing. We've apologized enough. What's done is done.
No, I'm not apologizing.
What's happened.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yep, it happens.
Yep.
It is life.
Yep. And he was fairly understanding at the time. So anyways, Goblins in the Castle.
Yeah.
Anything to add before we launch into the Bob's Your Uncle?
I read this book when I was a kid, and I remember really enjoying it, and I enjoyed it again. So, yeah, that's all I got to say.
Okay. No, it was
Bob's
my first time.
Bob's Your Uncle,
my first time with it, and I enjoyed it too. So, all that being said, let's turn it over to Harold with the Bob's Your Uncle for Gob's Your Uncle in the Castle.
Gob's Your Uncle in the Castle. All right. So this story follows a boy named William that lives Toad in a cage castle. He was left there as a little boy, and all through the years, he was living there. The Baron that lived there didn't really pay him much mind, but he was kind of just had his own free roam of the castle. He ends up meeting Igor, who lives in the dungeon of the castle, or the basement of the castle, and Igor is trying to stop something but doesn't really explain what it is. And then one fateful night, William opens a door after being called towards it, and he releases spirits of goblins. And what he ends up finding out as he meets someone named Granny Pinchbottom, because he and Igor leave the castle to stop the goblins, he finds out that the goblins were sealed away and they're actually helpful, and that the king's head was cut off and he has to reattach the king's head in order to break the spell. So they go off, and eventually, after meeting someone named Fauna and going on some adventuresome stuff, and another goblin named Herky follows them around. It isn't as wild as the other goblins are acting at the time. They end up meeting a guy named, I can't remember what his name is, the guy, the wizard.
Wizard? Ishmael?
Ishmael, yes. They end up meeting a wizard named Ishmael, and it kind of ends up turning out as he's trying to... Ishmael doesn't want to put the head back on the Goblin King because that's going to break the spell, but Ishmael's the one who made the spell. And after a argument, they end up getting the Goblin's head back on, and Ishmael takes a head first dive out a window, and they, turns out the goblins are good and they're going to be helpful around the kingdom, and Bob's your uncle. That's Goblins of the Castle, pretty much.
Indeed.
So I had an issue when I was reading this.
Yeah, what's that?
So I am a big fan of Young Frankenstein.
Okay.
So every time I read Igor, in my head, I said Igor.
Igor.
So the entire time I read this, it was Igor. And so when you guys started saying Igor, and when they were doing the audiobook, I was like, oh yeah, it would be Igor, wouldn't it?
In the audiobook on YouTube that I listened to, she slipped a couple times and called him Igor. So I think she's a fan of Young Frankenstein too.
It's a great movie. Not seen it, do yourself a favor.
I have seen it, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, it confused me when you had said I've never seen that, and I was like, what? So I was like, we have to watch this, Harold.
Yeah.
It's great.
I don't remember much about it.
Yeah, it's very funny.
I'd have to watch it again. I would watch it again, I'm sure.
I think it's on Max, so you can watch it.
But
anyway,
that's
a different Igor.
Yeah, Igor.
Or Igor.
Speaking of Igor, there's a post note in the book from Bruce Coville. And he basically says that he wrote this story around the character of Igor. He kind of cutely talks about Igor like he's a real person that he knows. But the story seems to be kind of written around this character who was always badly behaved, roaring around the room and bopping kids on the head with his bear, but the kids seem to love him anyway. And Igor's a very mysterious figure.
Yeah, because he's just a humanoid. He's not human.
Yeah, he's not a
goblin.
He says he's over 600 years old.
Right. And then he died once. And
he wasn't born.
Basically.
He wasn't born. He just came to be, and he's died once. So there's a lot of lore around Igor that is kind of touched upon, but is kind of brushed into the sidelines for the story.
And this doesn't have any kind of series onward story going with it.
There is actually a sequel. There's a sequel that was released in 2015.
Oh, really?
Yep. It's called Goblins on the Prowl. So we may have to check that one out too.
We may have to check that out.
So yeah, the story starts out real slow.
Oh yeah, it does.
It does. Yeah, he's an 11-year-old boy, and he spent his entire life inside this castle, with no friends. Basically, just the three adults roaming around the halls. You got the Baron, you got the maid Hulda, and you got Carl, the librarian. I don't remember if there's anybody else until he meets Igor.
I believe that's it,
No.
because he didn't know
Yeah.
like anyone. He never got to leave the castle and everything. So
No.
But yeah,
he was kept there.
This castle's got a whole bunch of secret passages, and he likes to explore around the castle. And there's the North Tower, which is always shrouded in mist, mysteriously, but the door to the North Tower is locked, and he doesn't know what's behind there, and nobody will tell him.
they bring up a few times how dirty it is, how it's just dusty everywhere, and how the only times that there might be anything is where dust is filled in where he had already like tried to make marks. So it's very, very dirty.
Yeah, no one's cleaning anything.
Yeah, Hulda's a terrible maid when it comes to cleaning.
Yeah, the whole like Baron, it just seems odd. He didn't seem to have any kind of, even though he had them around, it was like they didn't really. It's like this kid just kind of existed here. I always wonder how he learned anything.
Well, they said that he would learn from Carl sometimes, but most of the time he read from the libraries, and so he kind of just taught himself.
Sure, but that requires a lot of discipline for the kid. Luckily, William had it.
Well, yeah,
Right?
when you don't have whole else to do, you know.
Yeah.
He's 11 years old. He could be jerking off.
It might be a little early, but
Yeah, probably.
ooh, anatomy books.
Fucking split open people. Uh-oh, I'm gonna be weird.
Yeah, so weird that he explores tries to find hidden passages everywhere. And he's discovered a few, but they don't really go anywhere. But then he does eventually find one that goes down, and that's when he meets Igor, right?
And
Yeah.
Yep, he goes down 500 steps.
That's a lot of
That's
steps.
right. That is a lot of steps.
Yep, like
I mean,
he's got to have
my
massive calves, massive hamstrings.
My new place has 11 steps, and let me tell you, after I moved my dresser and stuff in, ooh, the next day my calves were just tight, and ooh, it was not good movement the next couple days after that.
Great.
So 500 steps compared to 11, yeah, it's gonna be way worse.
Yeah, 500 steps would be, but you know what, again, like this is a time when, you know, you probably did a lot more walking around. So 500 steps, whatever. They were healthy. They were healthy in there.
Yeah.
In that dusty castle.
It was a healthier time.
Fucking, yeah, healthy. I love when people say that shit. When they talk back there, like, be healthy like people used to be. Like, you know, they only lived to be like 40 years old, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, they walked everywhere and had no choice but to do so and like take stairs instead of elevators and shit.
Right.
But they had really short life expectancy.
Yep. And they died from very simple things that today we take for granted. So, but yeah. When he finds Igor and Igor's odd, he's got this. I always wondered, does the bear have something in it? Like, does it have like rocks or something in it?
They said it had stuffing, so
I mean,
it was
like,
just
okay,
stuff that was made of fur.
No. He's bopping shit and is fucking doing stuff. You know what I mean? It's actually
that's why he was able to bop him, because it's fluff. It doesn't hurt him. But at the same time, have you ever been in a pillow fight and fuck somebody up pretty good? Yeah, you can still do that, even if it's full of fluff.
You know, I'm not trying to carry on a theme here, but I'm pretty sure the inside of that bear was pretty stiff.
Oh no! I made the connection there.
600 years. Oh, that's...
Alone in a cellar for 600 years.
I mean, he did love that bear.
He did.
At least 100 years. I don't know how long he'd had the bear or whatever, but the curse is 121 years old. And which, because it's a 121-year-old curse, and William is 11, and apparently like it goes on an 11-year cycle where it's the magic holding the door closed and the goblin spirits in is at its weakest every 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
On Halloween.
So that makes me wonder if William's origins have anything to do with the curse or the spell or whatever.
Apparently the next one they talk more about William's beginning, his origins and Fauna, I believe.
Okay.
And Fauna's backstory too. Yeah. They add on. Bruce adds on to the lore in the sequel.
So, but yeah, he meets Igor after going. What I found out is 23 floors basically is what he walked. 500 steps is roughly 23 floors.
That's deep underground.
Oof.
So, yeah. But he, they get along well. So he keeps going and visiting him. And he gets freaked out at one time because he's not there. And he doesn't want to be he didn't want him to be upset because he was there. He's like, I don't know how to react. And so he decides he's going to scare him. And that's how he gets away with it, is by scaring him like Igor scared him before. He's like, oh, that's a good joke, William. That's funny. You're a funny guy.
But all that goodwill is lost. All that goodwill is lost when William touches Igor's hump, and he's apparently very sensitive about the hump.
His hump. His lovely lady
He's
lump.
a hunchback.
Check it out.
His lovely Igor lump.
Check out Igor's lump.
I drive these goblins crazy. I bop them on the daily.
Never touch my hump. My hump.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, otherwise they have a pretty good relationship.
So after William meets Igor, this wizard kind of pops up out of nowhere to tell William to give Igor a message.
Call me Ishmael.
He says his name is Ishmael, but don't call him that. That's kind of a recurring joke.
Yeah,
and
I think from Moby Dick.
I think it's kind of it's a reference to the Moby Dick, the first words in Moby Dick, call me Ishmael, but I don't know, it's just kind of a recurring joke of what's the term? Diminishing returns.
Oh, there you go.
It gets less funny every time they repeat it.
Right. Well, I would argue that
they don't explain why you're not supposed to call him that. So that leads me to believe that it's just some kind of wry little reference to call me Ishmael.
I would argue that usually a joke is one that most people see as of diminishing returns. They're diminishing returns at first, but then eventually all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck?
It gets funny again.
Yeah. At some point the returns diminish so much that they inverse.
Yeah. And you're like, this is the funniest shit I've ever seen.
What was lame becomes funny again. Yeah.
Oh man.
I wonder if they bring that back in the sequel.
Oh, that would be good. Well, they never said he was dead.
No, he just kind of fell to his death in the end, Disney villain style.
He even questioned if he was alive or dead.
Yeah, so they left that kind of open-ended.
Yeah.
So he could be making a return, we'll see. But that's jumping way ahead to the end of the book.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was the message they gave him?
That the most dangerous night is approaching or something.
Yep.
The most dangerous night is almost here.
Then William starts getting voices in his head.
Yep. Like a crazy person.
Like a crazy young boy.
Yep.
Maybe I'm crazy. Oh, no. This is a music heavy episode.
Yeah, this is the one we break into song all the time.
This is great. This is a good one. So yeah, he listens to the voices and he goes to the tower and he releases the goblins. The spirits of the goblins get to escape from the tower. But they don't know that they're goblins yet. He just knows that they release spirits.
Right, because in the door to the North Tower, it's this big old void with William goes in and he's just suspended in nothing, and he can see the doorway from inside, but nobody looking in can see him. It's kind of weird and kind of cool, actually.
By the way, yeah, I really enjoyed this, and later there's a slow motion scene that was really well written, I thought. It made you I could understand what it was he was trying to get at, how William felt in that place.
Yeah, he was just in nothingness, which it's something that we see done not well in movies, but it's done really well in literature. because it's just something you can imagine, but they can't put it on film yet.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty good, and it made you feel like, to me, it's almost like being sleep paralyzed. Like, he couldn't move, there was nothing he could touch or grab or...
Well, he could move, but it didn't do anything.
Well,
there was just zero resistance.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, is like, he couldn't get out of there no matter what he did. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Because
eventually he got pulled out.
Right.
So.
Well, I know that.
Carl was there with the rope.
I did read this book, guys.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. It was a good description of like how hopeless it felt.
Reminded me of waking up in the morning. Fucking hopeless.
Not again.
Damn it.
I told you last night, don't wake up. I told you last night.
No. God, that's awful.
I know. We all go through it, you know. So. Sometimes, some of us more recently than others.
But yeah, he gets pulled out, but things are starting to go crazy.
Yeah, the goblin spirits are running wild in the castle. William and Carl shut themselves up in William's room and bar the door, and they can hear all kinds of noises going on outside in the halls. And after the noises die down, they leave the room, and everything is clean. First of all,
yeah, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Goddamn goblins.
But there's all kinds of like booby traps set everywhere too. There's like soap on the stairs and like a bucket of water over the doorway, over a doorway.
Because they're pranksters, man.
That's fun.
They're just getting a little rise out of you.
Yeah. They also cleaned everything. They'll probably clean it up, the bucket of water and stuff. But yeah, this is definitely where he's kind of starting to feel like there's a like, I need to fucking do something about this because I think I screwed up.
So he goes and finds Igor, and then they go out to find Granny Pinchbottom. Which is weird, because they were talking about her earlier and how she's like, she torments children, basically. She's a ghost. She's a story made up to scare children into, doing their chores and behaving and things like that.
Right.
Like, who else might you think of that's made up to scare children into behaving?
Jesus?
That's one. Santa Claus.
Santa Claus. Oh, he's real.
Oh, in our hearts.
Santa Claus is alive.
The Easter Bunny. I mean, he actually doesn't give a fuck if you're good or not. You're just gonna. He wants you to get diabetes.
Easter Bunny don't give a fuck.
The Easter Bunny is terrifying.
He just wants to give you. He just wants to give you diabetes.
It doesn't matter if it's. It doesn't matter if it's the Nightmare Fuel costumes. We may have already talked about this, but it doesn't.
Oh my god, those things are terrifying.
It doesn't matter if it's the Nightmare Fuel costumes or being a child and having your mom go, "Yeah, there's a 6-foot bunny that comes in the house and drops off shit," and you're like, "Oh, fucking what?" And I always imagined
a giant rabbit.
I always imagined an anthropomorphic giant bunny. Okay, it was never like a bunny, and it was just, I don't know, terrifying creature.
Do you guys remember Autoworld? Or did that shut down before you were able to go?
I don't know.
Autoworld? I don't know.
Okay, so in Flint, there was this place called Autoworld, which was a theme park built around automobiles. Of course, in Flint. But I remember, it's one of my earliest memories. One of the things is they had tie-ins with Looney Tunes. Apparently, I followed Bugs Bunny, left my family, and just followed Bugs Bunny. And my mom eventually found me, but I don't remember that much about it. I just remember the fact that, like, I remember following Bugs Bunny. That's all I remember from it.
Bye, so Mom and Dad,
apparently,
I'm gonna go follow the rabbit.
Apparently I was like, yep, I want to meet, I love Bugs Bunny, and I'm going to go and hang out with him or something. So.
He is my new mom.
Yep. He will give me carrots. It will be fine.
This will be fine.
It's fine.
What could go wrong?
So yes, they're searching out to find Granny Pinchbottom, but before they get there, Igor gets abducted by the goblins. Because they're like, Igor is not friends of the goblins. He's our enemy. And so they take him. They kidnap him.
They swarm him, and they're too much for him to handle with his boppin' bear. So they wind up carrying him away.
He hasn't refueled it recently.
Jesus.
Oh, God damn it. No.
Why must you ruin everything?
Yeah, he's definitely fucking that bear.
Yeah, he's definitely fucking that bear.
That's the B story of this.
Yeah, it is,
We
yep.
brought it back.
He's fucking that bear. And you know why? Because he's imagining Granny Pinchbottom. Because when William first meets Granny Pinchbottom, she's a fucking she's a hottie. She's a fox.
Oh, nice. Always nice.
And he's like, wait, he like meets this lady, and he's like, hey, aren't you supposed to be old and haggard? And she's like, well, if that's what you want. And she changes into that. And I was like, dude, she was like, awesome. Why did you make her old and gross? I don't get it.
Well, obviously William wasn't old enough to be jerking off because he didn't ask to bring back the hot Granny Pinchbottom.
Yeah, well,
That's true.
Bring that back with a little less clothing on.
How did she put it? Like, people see what they want to see.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah, she appears as how they want to be. So she changed in front of his eyes. But I would have been like, bring that other one back.
No.
Just not for any other reasons than, that other form was slightly better. Cut this out, Andy. I feel like
Oh
it's
my
gross.
God, dude. It's just so fucking crazy. Oh, anyways.
There it is.
I personally offended him with the Wachowskis the other day. Anyhow, because I forgot something. Let's
okay.
move on. Yeah, it's okay. It doesn't matter if it's okay. We don't know the Wachowskis, Josh. I said
This is true, we don't.
It was an accident. I don't need to apologize to you. You don't need to tell me it's okay. Okay.
I'm just oblivious here. I'm lost.
Oh, no, I felt
No,
like I was appearing misogynistic, and I didn't want to feel that way because of the way I was like, oh yeah, I'd rather have a hot Granny Pinchbottom than an old one. But I mean, it's true.
I think everybody would agree with that. Except for old people. We like you too, old people.
And that was the thing. He imagined like the Wicked Witch of the West type of that. If he would have thought of the nice witch, then maybe that would have been fine. But or like a nice grandmotherly, like the ones from the Wrinkle in Time. Totally cool witches with those ones. Totally cool with them.
Well,
I guess
but
it's just I don't like the haggard ones.
He'd been told his whole life that she was haggard old lady that chased kids around. That's why he believed that. That's why he said that to her. Oh, I thought you were supposed to be like that. She's like, oh, well, now I am.
Yeah, Hulda told him that she was the kind of creature that like bit off a piece of her finger for misbehaving. I think one of her fingers was missing past the knuckle or whatever, and she said that, well, Granny Pinchbottom took that because some reason or whatever, so.
Oh, yeah. It was probably diabetes.
Diabetes.
And that now we also after that we meet Fauna, correct?
Yeah, because William meets Granny Pinchbottom, but Granny walks into the woods, and William loses track of her. But he finds Fauna, a young girl with dark hair. How else was it described? Yeah, big eyes, dark hair that hung past her shoulders, wearing a ragged brown shift cinched at the center with a leather belt. Fauna. She lives by herself, apparently, which is pretty mysterious.
Yeah, that is pretty mysterious, especially finding her after Granny.
The woods.
Yeah, Granny Pinchbottom disappears, and all of a sudden he finds her. Now, Granny Pinchbottom at this point had told him about the Goblin King, correct?
Yeah, because she gave him.
Not yet. Not right when he meets Fauna. But Fauna takes William to Granny Pinchbottom's house, where they get all the exposition about the history of the curse, what they have to do to reverse it.
Yeah, that's where we find out that Granny Pinchbottom wanted the goblins released.
correct, because the goblins actually, even though they were mischievous and had wild energy, it was like a benevolent kind of wild energy that added, spice to life. And back in the day, 121 years ago, the old Baron, I think it was the current Baron's grandfather, saw the goblins as getting out of control, too chaotic, didn't like their style, thought they were grooming children with their drag shows and shit. So he locked them all away. He got Ishmael to do a spell to lock the goblin spirits away in the North Tower.
But since then, Granny Pitchbottom said that the land is dying, or it's dead. It's dead because it used to be full of life, but now without the goblins around, it's lame. So
it's just kind of lame, and I think she put it like it was just kind of just lifeless. Getting by, like lifeless, not exciting, whatever. And so
yes.
Yeah, that makes me wonder if this was like a purposeful kind of allegory for like discriminating against certain people groups and just ostracizing them, locking them away, dulling their energy, persecuting them till they get angry and want revenge. That's what happens to the goblins, anyways. Yeah, after being locked away in the void, Granny Pinchbottom said that they got so angry that they didn't turn evil because after so long of being angry, it looks like evil or something along those lines.
Right, they're just pissed off and they want what's
revenge.
Due. They want revenge.
They want their rights. They want their freedom.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, so yeah, later, because the goblins, like, yeah, they do the chores, but then they also do crazy stuff. So they kind of like, the whole reason they were locked away being that almost as if the mischievous stuff was almost considered evil at that time even. And then this self-fulfilling prophecy happens because of the fact that they're locked away, like with the revenge and shit. Because even the Goblin King, when they do get to him, he's pissed. They can't talk any sense into him.
Until they rejoin his head and stuff.
Right.
That's later. So we'll get to that.
I don't know what happened for the king to lose his head, though. What Granny Pinchbottom said is that the king went quite mad as a result of what happened and lost his head altogether. Like, literally, he got so mad he lost his head.
Didn't they say, though? No, they said because they say that they cut off his head.
Yeah, that's why he was so pissed. It's literally because they cut his head off. He wouldn't have been so pissed, but they cut his head off, which is, annoying. But to attach his head, they needed this gold ring, which they got from Granny Pitchbottom, and a cloak of invisibility. Sounds familiar. And then there was one other item that he got.
What's that, from the Predator? Are you talking about the cloak of invisibility the Predator has?
No, I'm talking about Harry Potter.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Predator.
Harry Potter.
That's what I'm saying. She stole this she stole it from Bruce.
Yeah, but did Bruce steal it from Predator?
It wasn't a cloak. It was camouflage, Harold.
It's the same thing.
No, it's not. His was technological. And Williams was an actual cloak.
I'm trying to remember if there was one in Lord of the Rings. I mean, there was like a means of going invisible when you
put the ring on.
The ring, you go invisible. So it was kind of functioned like that.
They had those stupid leaf pieces that they could put on their cloaks that made them...
They did have those cloaks that enabled them to camouflage pretty easily when they pulled it over. But one thing that Granny gave him was an amulet of light.
That's it, amulet.
To light the darkest places. And then a cloak of invisibility with a golden clasp shaped like an oak leaf. Very Tolkien-esque.
Yeah, that is for sure.
And then the third thing is a golden belt that will reunite the Goblin King's head with his neck and break the spell or something.
Yeah, no, breaking the spell requires putting the goblin's head back on his neck, onto his body, which are separate from each other. Well, I mean, obviously they're separate, but they're separate, like, by distance, too.
Yeah, they are separated, literally.
Yeah.
But the king isn't dead. Like, his head is very much alive and animated, and he can, like, bounce around with his head, but...
And bite.
And bite, yep. But they keep his body separate from his head. But when they reunite the head with the body, it's supposed to eliminate the curse, and it'll cure the king of his madness, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
And because the king shares like a mystical bond with the entire goblin race, it'll have the kind of Trade Federation droid effect, and all the goblins will not be so angry anymore.
Which is perfect for everybody, really.
Yeah. Because the goblins are free and they are gearing up for revenge.
Righteous revenge, I would say.
And so they decide they have to take off, and they have to go to Nilbog. And as they're traveling, they get attacked by a little goblin named Herky, who is a jerk. But in a good way.
Herky jerky.
Herky was fun.
Yeah, I liked Herky. He's a fun little character. And so he's like, hey, he apparently got separated from his group, but he knows the way to Nilbog. So they decide that they're going to follow him so that they can get to Nilbog. But on the way, they get caught by another group.
Because of course.
Because that's how stories work.
You can't just make it to where you gotta go. You gotta get kidnapped.
They get caught, everyone but Herky. And so, but lo and behold, the goblins like William.
Because William was the one who opened the door and freed their souls.
Freed them from the nothingness. And that was the thing, that was what irritated them and, pissed them off, is that they were in this place where they had nothing. It was literally nothingness. They were just spirits. So that would drive me mad. I know, because they were there for how many years?
121.
121 years. Wouldn't that drive you insane? I know it would probably drive me nuts.
Sounds kind of nice.
For like 10 minutes. But then after that, ugh.
Considering all the shit we're going through these days, I could stand, maybe like hour or two of just nothingness.
Yeah. It's nice.
Just let me breathe. Okay, I can hear my thoughts again.
Yeah.
Oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't want to hear those thoughts.
I need to buy more toilet paper. I'd
like to try a sensory deprivation chamber sometime.
I've always wondered about that.
Yeah.
It could be interesting.
I'll pick you up.
Let's go. Well, what's next?
Well, they liked William.
They like William, and they're gonna take revenge on the people who put them in there, namely the Baron, and they hate Igor because he was
helping the Baron.
He was helping the Baron.
Even though at the time they were friends, the goblins thought he was their friend.
Yeah, right. He was the traitor, so. Yep. That's why they didn't like him.
Igor was just kind of doing what the Baron told him.
Presumably, we find out later there's a little more to it.
He was told it was for the good of everybody.
Yeah, and there was more to it as well. Like, he wasn't doing it entirely under his own
Igor
volition.
Only following orders.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what they said at the trials.
And that's kind of what Igor says at the end of this book, and it actually kind of works for him. The goblins wind up being in a forgiving mood at the end.
Well, and also
other stuff too.
Yeah, so. They find out that he had a spell on him too. Remember?
Oh, it was a spell.
Yeah, Ishmael was manipulating him.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, Ishmael was kind of the
bad guy.
Bad here. Yeah.
Yep.
Ishmael and the old Baron were the most responsible.
Straight white men, dude.
I know.
Actually, we
straight
can't.
White men with power.
We can't assume that. I mean, Ishmael never says one way or the other, but
This is kind of like a Anglo-Saxon medieval kind of thing. We can pretty much assume that everybody's white here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no. I already did, but I'm just saying.
So at this time, he stands up. William stands up for Igor, and so they imprison him along with Igor. But then their little friend Herky gets them out, and then they're able to escape get up to the Goblin King's room, and they are able to connect his head with his body using the golden ring. And that breaks the spell, and he's not so angry anymore.
Yeah, actually, they now become like pretty much friends. There was a little bit of that was where they had the freeze time thing where Ishmael like slowed down time, and I thought that was really well written as well.
Yeah, they have this big epic battle with Ishmael at the end there, and
then like the head of the king is like biting and calling for help, and
yep.
It's all a very big, chaotic, fun scene to end with.
My thing is like, doesn't he want his head reattached with his body? Wouldn't he?
But he's mad. He's got madness, so he isn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's not in his right mind. Yeah. All he knows is that he's being carried by a human.
So yeah, basically, what happens is they beat Ishmael, and Igor. They figure out that Igor's been being controlled, and so then the goblins forgive him, and of course they love William still because he freed him. And I think Granny Pinchbottom's around, and Fauna's there, and the professor, and basically all the characters come together to celebrate at the end. And that was Goblins in the Castle. I liked it. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I like the book.
I usually tell my brother whether or not it's good to read to his nieces and nephews. So I was like, this one I definitely recommend for the older kids, like, because they're about 9 or 10. So I was like, yep, this would be perfect for that age group, in my opinion.
I agree.
I also agree.
I would definitely read this to Xander, who is 9 at the time of this recording.
I'm just going to throw on the YouTube video audiobooks for Bruce. I mean, who gives a shit, right?
Play him while he's asleep. He'll learn through
exactly.
osmosis.
There we go.
Learning through osmosis.
Learning through osmosis would be like if you put your head against a book and learn from it.
You're saying that doesn't work?
It doesn't.
I wish it did.
But sleeping while you're listening to stuff does work. 150%.
It's like that. It reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons.
Cite examples.
Where Homer, like, has all these words, but he doesn't remember, like, spoon.
Oh, right. He orders what he thinks are weight loss subliminal tapes, but it's vocabulary building tapes to listen to in your sleep. So he's got all these big fancy words.
But it like knocked stuff out of his brain.
Yeah, he's like, thing to eat with.
That metal dealy.
A spoon?
To shovel food.
Yeah. Maybe I should rewatch those.
So, I mean, I assume Igor lived happily ever after with his bear.
They rode off into the sunset. And if you listen hard enough, you can hear Igor going bop, bop, bop,
yeah.
bop, bop.
Who was doing the riding is the question.
Who's he bopping?
Yeah, who's he bopping?
There's no goblin. He's not bopping goblins. Who's he bopping?
Well, we did learn that she bops. So if she bops and Igor bops,
he bop, you bop, a we bop.
I mean, that still works. Because that song is about masturbation.
It's directly tied to Cyndi Lauper.
It is.
Oh, no.
It's true. The fucking B story's true.
Oh, telling you.
Bopping really is code.
Gob's your uncle.
I hate it when you're right. God damn it.
Bop's your uncle.
Oh, man.
Fuck. Okay, let's.
I gotta tell you, that B story came out of nowhere because all of a sudden I was just thinking that because I was thinking about the rocks. Like I kept reading. I'm like, what the fuck? Because at some point he was bopping stuff, the goblins with it, and it was knocking them away. So I'm like, just a regular teddy bear is not gonna do that. It's got to be stiff.
It's got to have some heft. Yeah, it's got to have some heft to this bear for sure in order to do anything. I mean, even like a very strong person with a flimsy little bear isn't going to do a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, dude, Arnold Schwarzenegger could slap me in the face. It's like 1990s Arnold Schwarzenegger hit me in the face with a teddy bear, and I think I'd be okay in the 1990s when I was a child.
Oh yeah, you think that, huh?
Yeah. Fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger
my terrible
emails
Arnold
the
Schwarzenegger
show.
impression.
Arnold Schwarzenegger emails the show. He's like, I want to hit Harold in the face with a bear. Oh my god, yes.
I mean, he might do it. He's cool about stuff like that.
I will let you do it.
I'll tweet at him.
Yeah, no, I'm totally sure that
face.
after anybody listens through the episode, they'll be like, yeah, you should get together with these folks. They were talking about fucking a teddy bear.
And Bruce is never coming on the show again.
Oh, God, no, I knew that for sure already.
I saw his face. That was never going to happen.
Sorry, Bruce. We are so sorry for that. And
he's not listening.
Sort of sorry for the peace story about Igor here.
He's the one that wrote it.
Yeah.
So. On that note.
On that note, yes.
So what do we got lined up? What's coming up? What's on the docket?
Next week, we're going to be revisiting Raspberry Lemonade Stein and delving actually into a Fear Street book.
Double Date.
Yeah, we've selected Double Date.
It looks interesting.
From the Fear Street series.
I already have a topic, and I haven't even read it yet.
There's a dude who tries to get with identical twins.
Exactly. It is a porno.
Nice.
But one of them is murderously jealous type.
Ooh.
He has to find out which one.
She'll have to have sex with him before the other one.
I'm gonna have sex with the other one to figure it out for sure.
Guarantee you she's good at it. If she's murderously crazy.
The one who's murderously jealous.
The one that's murderously jealous.
Best lay of his life.
Yep, for sure. Oh man. But I am interested to see like how graphic the Fear Street gets. Like if there's death, or you know what I mean. I assume there is some death, but I don't know like how graphic do they get with it. You know, I want to know.
Yep. We're gonna get into it next time on ReLiterated. But it does seem to be more mature, definitely, than Goosebumps for the kind of the next step up. The kind of teen kind of subject matter, high school hookups and dances and boyfriends and girlfriends and babysitters and whatever, stepsisters, rather than like the monster of the month or the latest like kooky trolls that put you on a game show.
Scarecrows.
In an amusement park. Haunted scarecrows, yeah.
Scarecrows that you can beat up with a stick.
Yep. No more of this kitty bullshit.
Nope, it's time to get some real stuff happening.
Moving to Fear Street. And then we'll go back to Goosebumps.
Yep. We'll go back chapters. We'll go back to other stuff. So,
because let's face it, Goosebumps was 90s books.
Oh, for sure.
For kids.
100%. Especially, like, I know that Mark's favorite book, Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, was definitely one that I'll never forget seeing that in the Scholastic Book Fair thing.
Absolutely.
That's Marky Mark from the Marky Mark and Matty Ice podcast. His favorite book is Scarecrow Walks at Midnight.
Mm-hmm. Mark. The E stands for entertainment.
And E likes Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. All right.
He likes the scarecrows.
He likes it. He likes it a lot. All right, on that note.
Good times. That's next episode on ReLiterated. So until then, support your local libraries, independent booksellers, don't let idiots ban books, and give a shit, read some lit.
Bob Jericho, that's ReLiterated.
Thanks, everybody.
This has been ReLiterated, a production of the Chocolate Milk Friends. If you enjoy our show, please consider giving us support by subscribing, recommending us to your book reading, podcast listening, 90s nostalgic friends, and most importantly, rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Audible Podcasts, and Spotify. Your ratings and reviews go a long way towards getting us in the ears of new listeners. You're also invited to join the growing ReLiterated community on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. And if you really want to get nuts, we have a Discord too. So Bing us and join us in this nonsense. If you have a book suggestion for a future episode or have questions for us, send us an email at reliterated@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. You had that
There.
like B-52's guy.
Yeah,
I sure did.
Yeah, he didn't sound at all.
No.
That wasn't cockney at all, dude.
Outside, up, outside, just to get down.
That's why I do that song at karaoke, because I can mimic the dude's voice. It's super fun.
I can't hear you.
It's as big as a whale.
And I'm about to set sail.
Awesome.
And bring your jukebox money. That one's fun.
Rock Lobster.
Oh God, that song. It's 8 minutes long. God damn it.
Not worth it.
Not worth it.